You're watching Cable 2.
Good evening and welcome to the March 22nd, 2022 Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education meeting. I am Kay Kaplan, the chair, and I appreciate your attendance and also say good evening to our viewers on Cable 2. Will you please rise as we start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by our invocation given by Vice Chair Lyda Calvert-Hayes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray, please. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, as well as support as we begin our meeting. Help us to grow closer as a group and to nurture the bonds of this community. We ask in their name. Amen.
Amen. Our first order of business tonight is the agenda review. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion approved. Our next order of business is our special recognitions. First, we would like to recognize the Atkins Acapella State Champions, and we have a little performance.
One, two, three. The world can be a nasty place. You know it, I know it, yes. See, we don't have to fall from grace. Put down the weapons you fight with. Kill them with kindness. Kill them with kindness. Kill them. Kill them, kill them with kindness, kill them with kindness, kill them with kindness. Go ahead now.
One, two, three, hit it.
We're running out of time, chasing our lies. Every day a small piece of you dies. There's always somebody you're willing to fight to be right. Your eyes are bullets, your mouth's the gun. No war in anger was ever won. Put out the fire before igniting. Next time you're fighting, kill 'em with kindness, kill 'em with kindness. Kill 'em, kill 'em, kill 'em with kindness. Kill 'em with kindness, kill 'em with kindness. Go ahead now. Kill 'em with kindness, kill 'em with kindness. Go ahead now. Kill 'em with kindness, kill 'em with kindness. Go ahead now. Your eyes are bullets, Your mouth's the gun, no war in anger was ever won. Put out the fire before igniting. Next time you're fighting.
Thank you so much, Andrew Kraft, and we'll recognize the champions, and Valerie Davidson is their coach.
Good evening, distinguished board chair Kaplan, and Superintendent McManus. My name is Andrew Kraft, Director of Arts Education, and it's my pleasure to recognize Adkins High School a cappella and their director, Ms. Valerie Davidson, on winning the 2022 NCASA a cappella state championship. They performed 3 songs, one of which you just heard. Not only did the team win overall first place, they were also the only group to earn a rating of superior overall, meaning their score was between 90 and 100 points out of 100. With such a sound victory, it's not a surprise that the group also earned individual awards, including Best Choreography, Best Female Soloist, which was Destiny Harris, and Best Male Soloist, which was Luis Diaz. So Ms. Davidson is going to read their names, and I'm going to present their certificates. Here you go.
Leah Albertson, Kiana Anthony, Naila Carter, Alyssa Crow, Eli Sire, Xavier Davis, Parker Dishman, Amelia Dahlbaum, Josna Gosavi, Destiny Harris, Ichiro Ignacio, Charlotte Mosier, Kai Payne, Samantha Panucci, Max Scannell, Brandon Summers, Elisha Thomas, Ashley Wilson, and Leanne Zahara.
Let's give these students one more round of applause.
That was just wonderful. Next, we have the winter sports state champions with an update. John Sullivan or Alexis McCoy will give. It's John or Alexis McCoy. Okay, hey, John.
Good evening. Chair Kaplan, Ms. McManus, members of the board, thank you for having us here to recognize our North Carolina High School Athletic Association Winter State Champions. First, I'd like to bring out the 2A girls from Walkertown High School, your 4x2 meter relay champions. present with us this evening, Kenila Ross, Kaya Newton Roseborough, Mariah Perry, Madison Minga Perry, an alternate was Aliyah Bowles, and their coaches, Steve Stowe, Michael Smith, and Keith Perry. Girls, if you could slide down here. Kenila. Just slide on down. Stay here. The 4A girls, representing Parkland High School, Miss Ija Mumford. Ija is a 3-time state champ in the long jump, indoor long jump. And she actually would have been a 4-time state champion, but they canceled the winter season during COVID. She also was a state champ in the triple jump. For 4A boys, Mount Tabor High School, Mr. Terrell Robinson Jr. With Terrell as his coach, Patrick Cromwell, and like Miss Mumford, Terrell would have probably been a 3-time state champ. He won sophomore year and again his senior year in the 55 meters, and he also won the 300 meters this year as well, so congratulations. And from West Forsyth High School, Tyson Adams. Tyson's coach, Nate Newsom, is with him this evening, and Tyson is a junior, and we expect to see him back here next year. Congratulations once again. Thank you. Anyway.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Way to go.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Next, the American Legion State Rifle Champions, presented by Major Richard Sugg.
Distinguished members of the board, Madam Superintendent, colleagues, friends, families, and members of the community, thank you for sharing a moment or two of your time to come out here and recognize this outstanding student, Ms. Debbie Weiser. On March 12th, Debbie won the American Legion North Carolina State Championship in 3-position air rifle. In doing so, she became the first state champion in this sport for West Forsyth High School and from the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School District. What was more impressive, though, is how she won it and who she beat. She won by 14 points, which is a huge margin in this sport. And she did it by building an early and insurmountable lead and just cruising to the title without any pressure. And she beat some really outstanding competition, including last year's American Legion state champion, this year's Civilian Marksmanship Program state champion, and this year's North Carolina Junior Olympic champion. They're all different people. And they're kind of like the who's who atop the leaderboard in North Carolina, and Debbie went and she beat them all. So to say she had a good match against some good competition is really quite an understatement. So she's an AB honor roll student, an officer in the West Forsyth JROTC Corps of Cadets, two-time defending Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, and now your reigning American Legion 3-position air rifle state champion. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Debbie Weiser.
Congratulations. So great. Next, we have our board spotlight video.
March is National Women's History Month, and Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools is proud to celebrate all who do so much in our schools and community. We like to shine the spotlight on one in particular. Carol Montague Davis retired from WSFCS at the end of February after 18 years. She started as the principal of Carver High School in 2004 before moving up to become an instructional superintendent. Montague Davis returned to Carver as principal in 2017 at her own request in what she calls the best move of her career.
My blood is blue and gold. So I said that if I ever went back to another high school, it would be Carver Nation, which is where I start. So I kind of look at this as a complete circle, you know.
She has definitely been a role model, a leader, and a trailblazer. To see more coverage on Carol Montague Davis and other impactful women in our community, head over to our website. WSFCS would like to thank all of the women who've made a difference in our district and our community now and in the past.
School social work is a very challenging job, and so I do think it needs to be celebrated.
And we have a great group of social workers in this district. They are very supportive. I've actually never worked with such a supportive group of people.
National School Social Worker Week is also celebrated in March. WSFCS has 51 social workers in the district, and we're grateful for the work they do to support and help our students achieve academic and overall success. If you'd like to see more on what social work in our district involves and what it means to them, head over to our website. And thank you to all of our WSFCS social workers. You're an integral part of our team. WSFCS is proud of 4 schools in our district that were honored by the National Magnet Schools of America, the national organization for magnet and theme-based schools. Haynes Magnet Middle School, North Forsyth Health Science Magnet High School, and Atkins Academic and Technology High School have all been named Schools of Distinction by the organization. R.J. Reynolds Arts Magnet High School was also named a National Magnet School of Excellence. The Magnet School of Excellence awards are only given to a select group of magnet schools. R.J. Reynolds now has the chance to win $5,000 and the Distinguished Merit Award, which is considered the most prestigious magnet school award in the nation. Congratulations to all 4 of these tremendous schools. You make us all very proud. WSFCS is thankful for all of our community partners, and there is one in particular that we'd like to spotlight this month. Kaplan Early Learning Company, a Forsyth County company that's been in business over 50 years, has generously donated literacy training tools for 165 kindergarten and first grade classrooms at 20 different elementary schools in our district. The work is in support of the district's 90 by 25 goal. The goal to have 90% of third graders reading on grade level by 2025 is part of the district's strategic plan.
These materials, these kids love something multi-sensory that they can touch and do, and it'll help them so much with the classroom teachers with being able to just really solidify their early phonics skills.
For more coverage on Kaplan Early Learning Company and what donating to our schools means to them and our district, check out the Assignment Schools segment on our website. March is Arts and Education Month. WSFCS is so very proud to celebrate the massive impact the arts play in our students' lives. One event that's a community favorite is the WSFCS Spring Arts Extravaganza, an annual showcase of the best artwork from students at all grade levels. The Milton Rhodes Center for the Arts in downtown Winston-Salem fills 3 floors full of amazing artwork on display for anyone to check out. We have a ton of talented student artists in our district, and that was more than evident everywhere you looked.
We're seeing skills improve as they move along through our program. They start in the elementary with all of these vibrantly painted and colored pieces of art in this gallery, and then move forward with technique and skill into the pieces that just blow you away at the high school level. So this is just an awesome art program. It's one of the best in the state of North Carolina.
Arts are an outlet for our students in our schools, and we have the best arts teachers in the state of North Carolina. And so you put the two together and you see what you get, just this fantastic product.
For more coverage on the 2022 WSFCS Spring Arts Extravaganza, go to our website and check out the Assignment Schools segment. In the performing arts world, these 5th graders at Sherwood Forest Elementary were excited as they practiced to perform a play for the first time since the pandemic. This year's performance was the Disney version of The Jungle Book.
We always try to have a well-rounded education, and having arts as a part of that is very important. There's lots of different types of geniuses, and arts is one of those. Having the students perform, arts is really important, and there's just a lot of things that students learn from that. And getting to do this play is sometimes where a student may not be able to shine in something that's super academic, but they get to shine there on the stage, and it's just their way to kind of show that for everybody.
WSFCS would like to say thank you to everyone that teaches, supports, and helps promote the arts in our schools. And that is the curtain call for this month's Board of Education Spotlight.
That was great also. At this time, we will hear public comments on the agenda items. The instructions for this section were on the sheet as you signed up. The most important rule to remember is that we ask that you be kind and respectful. No cheers or jeers during or after each speaker, and no, we cannot talk about sensitive and private student or personnel information in this public setting. You have 3 minutes to speak, and if you have more time to share, always know you can email us directly. Thank you. Our first speaker is Rhonda Mays.
Good evening, Chairwoman Kaplan, the
Good
board,
evening.
and Superintendent McManus. I am standing before you as an individual this evening, and I want to speak about the proposed changes to our dual enrollment policy. When I was reading the changes, I was very pleased that all students in our district will have an opportunity, all of the high school students will have an opportunity to be dual enrolled. That's excellent. And I was even pleased to see that it's not going to be of any cost to the family, to the student, or no cost for them, except for if they take summer courses. I can understand that. But the one thing that had me a little concerned is the fact with the transportation piece. Transportation should not be a hindrance for students being able to access services. We need to make certain that all of our students are able to access any of the services and opportunities that we have in this district. I did read in there that they will be able to ride the bus that's for the Career Center. Yeah, I think it was the Career Center, or some the bus that's going to be leaving from Forsyth Tech, if the course that they're taking corresponds with that schedule. I hope that we're going to pay attention to how this rolls out, and if we find that there are students who are being denied the opportunity to be dual enrolled, who qualify and have the desire to be dual enrolled, that we will revisit this and find a way to make certain that transportation is not an issue that stops a student from being dual enrolled. Thank you for the changes that you've made. Thank you for making certain that we have this opportunity for students who are motivated. This could help students to stay in school and to spark some interest in school. So this is a great move. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing what changes will take place to help students if we discover that transportation has been a hindrance for our students not being able to be dual enrolled. Thank you and have a great one.
Thank you. Next, we have Sabrina Kuhn Godfrey.
Good evening, Chair Kaplan, members of the board, Superintendent McManus. I am Sabrina Kuhn Godfrey, and thank you for your time this evening. Tonight, I want to speak on discussion item about the COVID updates. The transition to masking optional has really been implemented well. As a volunteer in the schools, I'm regularly in the building, and it has been so nice to have the option to be mask-free. It's also been really nice to see the students being able to have lunch with their parents, and parents just being back in the building, interacting again, and being engaged. It's been great. I really appreciate all the hard work that you guys have done getting us to this point over the last 2 years. And I look forward to working with you all as we do more good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Linda Winikoff.
Chair Kaplan, Superintendent McManus, board members. My name is Linda Winikoff. I'm a lifelong educator and spent many years with the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. My longest tenure was 13 years at a Title I school. I'm here in support of the summer learning programming being presented tonight and its components of social, emotional, and experiential learning. In recent years, Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools has made an intentional effort to implement a sound social and emotional learning plan for the district, and I thank you for that. For the healthy development of all children, I urge you to expand these practices so that evidence-based social and emotional learning is standard education practice for all students, both during the summer and throughout the school year. The 5 major goals of social and emotional learning: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making undeniably promote student success in school and in life. Reviews of hundreds of published studies spanning over the past 20 years clearly demonstrate that students receiving school-based SEL have more positive attitudes towards oneself and others, plus enhanced self-efficacy, confidence, persistence, empathy, connection, and commitment to school, and a sense of purpose. Benefits also include reduced conduct problems and risk-taking behavior, decreased emotional distress, and improved test scores, grades, and attendance. Isn't that what we all want for the children of our community? Experiential learning is interrelated with SEL and also is vital in that it helps students understand who they are and their place in the world. It provides opportunities to interact with activities and in spaces that might otherwise be unknown. The students see that they belong anywhere, on concert and theater stages, in science laboratories, executive offices, art studios, tennis courts, and beyond. The impact of providing experiential learning opportunities and creating spaces that might otherwise be unknown is significant and impactful to the students and to our entire community. Your support for this summer programming with social, emotional, and experiential learning components will further your commitment to see that education needs to be for the whole child. All of our community's children are treasures to behold and deserve social, emotional, and experiential learning both in the summer and throughout the school year to help them have equitable access to success in school and in life. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Matthew Poston.
Good evening, Board Chair Kaplan.
Good evening.
Members of the board and Superintendent McManus. I'm a graduate and educator within the Winston-Salem Forsyth County school system. I'm vested in our schools, scholars, and staff. Hence why I'm here to speak to you tonight about our high school dropout trends. As an educator, I will applaud the reduction in the total number of dropouts across all demographics. However, the trend for our Hispanic community is disturbing. While there has been a drop in the total number of Hispanics who left their education career, The demographic still composes 38.8% of the total dropouts across Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools. There are approximately 13.7 million Hispanic families in the United States as of 2020, and they are the fastest growing demographic in our county. Keep this in mind as I progress. Winston-Salem Forsyth County is off to a great start by hiring graduation coaches at all of our high schools. However, additional strategies along with the ones you'll see that are proposed, there are additional things that I propose to help curb the dropout rates at the schools with the highest Hispanic populations, or of this demographic in general. We need graduation coaches who are of Hispanic descent in our highest Hispanic population, our schools with the highest Hispanic population. I'd be curious to know how many of those are of Hispanic descent that we have hired. We need graduation coaches who are aware of cultural differences in the Hispanic communities. For example, expanded families are the backbone of Hispanic families. It is not uncommon for 3 generations to be living in the same household, where all stakeholders share in the responsibility of maintaining the household. How many of our Hispanic scholars are having to work to support families where a parent has been deported or needs the income to maintain the 3 basic needs of life? How many drop out to care for an elderly family member or babysit a sibling? Recent research from the NEA Foundation and Urban Institute found Hispanic scholars were leaving school early to work at 4 times the national average. We could have our ESL teachers and graduation coaches partner together to look for adaptive ways to assist scholars. In Surrey County, the high schools use their ESL teachers as advocates for coding attendance for the Hispanic scholars, so they are able to leave school to work, apprentice, or babysit. We need to dig deeper into this data, which we presented to you this evening. May I finish? Just 2 sentences.
Go ahead.
How many of each school's dropouts are Hispanic? That is not presented this evening in the data you will see. Is it possible to find out why Hispanics are dropping out? By triangulating and disaggregating this data, only then we'll be able to fully engage in the cycle of improvement.
Thank you. Next, we have Angela Levine.
Thank you. Hello, board members, Chair Kaplan, and Superintendent McManus. I'm here today to speak about the summer school program and say what a gift that the district's approach includes a prioritization of social emotional learning. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. While my daughters never attended summer school, I really hope that if they had this foundational approach to facilitating the learning of reading, math, and more would have been included. It's proven that young people with strong social and emotional skills are better equipped to cope with challenges, overcome trauma, and engage academically. And empirically, we know SEL improves academic outcomes. It would have been very easy to say we don't have time for that with such a short time frame for the summer program, but you actively chose to include it and not leave it out. A Forbes article published during the pandemic speaks to how critical SE is, especially now. By helping our youth better navigate the difficult circumstances they're facing and will continue to face throughout the rest of their lives, we can actually help them to thrive. By making SEL a component of the entirety of how they are taught, we can help them discover new beliefs about who they are and the greatness of which they are capable. And that greatness could be in math, reading, science, art. It could be in any number of things, but perhaps it simply hasn't been tapped into yet. So thank you again for prioritizing social emotional learning within your summer school program and giving all children a better shot at getting back on grade level by the time the next school year arrives. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Castillo.
Hi, good evening, Castillo. Like the gentleman said, I'm here to talk about the dropout rates, and I definitely agree that just looking at the data, that I would like to know specifically the breakdown as to the number of Hispanics in each schools. I saw that Carver, Carter, East Forsyth, and Glenn have some of the highest dropout rates. And I'm willing to bet that Glenn and East Forsyth probably have some of the highest Hispanics in their schools dropping out. Because me particularly, I do a lot of case management work in the community, working with people living in poverty and trying to help them access resources. And I can tell you that a lot of the parents that I talk to that live in the 27107 zip code that are struggling with paying their rent, paying their light bills, a lot of their kids go to Glenn High School. So I found that to be really interesting. So I come here today to see if there's a way that we can maybe talk about developing specifically a Hispanic task force, if that's not already out there, to address the alarming dropout rate within the Hispanic community. So I know it did go down from 45% last year to about 38, 39% this year. So something's obviously going well, but I want to see what we can do to help support that and make it work better. I know that within the Hispanic community, there's specific issues that I don't know if maybe we're looked at, such as the fact that we're getting a lot of asylum seekers here in North Carolina, and I didn't even know that. I thought that a lot of the asylum seekers were down at the border, but there are a lot being sent to North Carolina, and this group in particular are not allowed to work. And so, it's a big group of people that are living in poverty, so I would want to know, what's their level of English proficiency, and is that an issue? And then what are their graduation outlooks? Are we connecting them to resources maybe through Forsyth Tech, through Goodwill, and letting them know, you can do like a diesel technician, you can do welding. There's different types of things that you can do out there that aren't necessarily the four-year college career prep course. And so if I'm somebody that newly came to this country and I know I'm not going to college, then yeah, I'm probably going to drop out 20 days into high school. But if I know that, hey, there's resources, like if I do drop out, I can go get my GED through Forsyth Tech, or maybe at the schools they're going to offer some kind of GED program. And then there's also this specific career track that I can go to. That would be something that would probably motivate me as a student to actually say, don't give up, there's more opportunities here for me, and never stop learning. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next, we have Terry Nelson.
I don't have a printer, can you tell? Good evening, Chairwoman Kaplan,
Good evening.
Superintendent McManus, and members of the board. My name is Terry Nelson. I'm a retired special needs teacher and the grandmother of one of your students. I would also like to address the 2022 Summer Learning Program. While I recognize the importance of catching students up who have fallen behind academically, I am so glad to see that the success of the summer program is not based entirely on academic outcomes, and there is also emphasis on providing activities for positive social, physical, and emotional skills. For many summers, I taught summer school. Students didn't want to be doing academic work with me, especially work in a subject area where they were already struggling. Understandably, they wanted to be on summer vacation. As a special needs teacher, nearly all of my teaching was one-to-one. This was time that I treasured because I was there just for that one child. If they weren't feeling socially, physically, and emotionally strong, they weren't ready to learn. All my skills and my whiz-bang lesson plans were an exercise in futility if a student was hungry, or hadn't had enough sleep the night before, or had felt misunderstood for whatever reason, or excluded by a friend. When I pick up my granddaughter after school every day, the first thing I ask is, did you have a good day? And most of the time she says, yes. But maybe she'll tell me she got to sit next to her friend, or that they got a treat because it was someone's birthday, and then I'll ask what she learned. And I know that on a good day, she was available for learning. If she tells me about a challenge she had during the day and she feels like she worked it out, or she needed to ask a grown-up for help and things got better, she was probably still available for learning that day. On the rare day when something doesn't feel adequately resolved, I know that's what she was thinking about, and she couldn't focus on learning. Many students have obstacles to learning that are out of their control. For example, a parent's illness or unemployment or lack of adequate housing. Students bring these stresses with them into the school. I believe all families want their children to be happy and healthy and to have what it takes to achieve their dreams. At home, we are doing our best to attend to their well-being. When our children go to school, they practice on others what we have taught them. Sometimes they'll need some support when building relationships and interpersonal skills and resilience. What they learn and practice will serve them in school and beyond and help them succeed as adults. I'm glad that the 2022 summer school focus is not only on positive academic outcomes. Thank you for your time and your dedication to our children.
Next, we have Jenny Marshall.
Good evening, Chairwoman Kaplan, members of the board, Superintendent McManus. My name is Jennifer Marshall, and I'm a 6th grade science teacher at Louisville Middle School. I'm here to speak to the inclusion of social emotional learning as a part of the summer school curriculum. As you've heard, SEL, social emotional learning, is the process of developing the self-awareness, self-control, and interpersonal skills that are vital for school, work, and life success. People with these strong social emotional skills are better able to cope with everyday challenges and benefit academically, professionally, and socially. From effective problem solving to self-discipline, from impulse control to emotional management. SEL provides a foundation for long-term effects and success in kids, adults, and our communities. I saw this personally as I taught 2nd grade in summer school last year. I taught math and science to a rambunctious group. Every single day I walked into that schoolroom and enjoyed being in their presence. SEL was a key component to building positive relationships and community within that classroom. It reduced the number of disciplinary actions and increased empathy and teamwork. They felt connected to their peers and to our team of teachers. SEL readies their minds to the task at hand and helps them to learn self-control. I saw students who came in angry learn how to be still and calm themselves. I saw students who went above and beyond for students that were having a bad day because they learned to empathize with them. We learned how words were powerful and can hurt when not used carefully. All these skills were taught each and every day, and our students thrived. I want to thank you for keeping this vital component in our school learning day, and I hope to see even greater gains this upcoming school summer program session, which I hope to be a part of. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Stephanie Richards.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Richards. I have 3 children in the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School District. During our time in this district, our family has experienced a lot of negligence and abuse of power. There are a lot of stories I could tell, but there's not enough time, and due to this, I will focus on the most recent of occurrences. This is post-COVID. My kids' school continues to call my husband and I out of work to pick up our children due to symptoms. This was ongoing during the mask mandate. However, these symptoms dismissals have certainly increased post-mask mandate. It has become so bad, my husband has received a corrective action on his record at work. When issued, his boss wrote 12 occurrences. However, he told him he actually had about 18. He is at risk of losing his job. I should add, my children have never tested positive for COVID-19. My oldest son has a disability and a documented coughing tic. Our school has required he leave due to a cough, as well as threatened to move him to distance learning if not stopped. They are aware of this condition as they have the documentation and have for a long time. My daughter, following a negative COVID test, was denied re-entry into her classroom because her teacher wouldn't allow her back until her symptoms were gone. My daughter has seasonal allergies. I have mentioned this several times, and the school district discredits my word as her mother. They tell us if we get seasonal allergies documented by a doctor, we will no longer need to pull our kids from school. This does not add up considering my son already has documentation and it stopped nothing. It is clear this is an attack. This is an attack on our livelihood. This is an attack on our rights as parents. This district claims to care about the health and safety of their students. Then why are you threatening our home stability? My husband and I understand when a child is sick, they should remain home. We have kept our children home when legitimately sick and complied with having them tested. However, they have called so many times now about small, insignificant symptoms that we no longer have wiggle room. We cannot miss any more work. These COVID-19 measures are destructive and must be removed before any further damage is done to families. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Laura Lester.
Good evening, Board. I'd like to request a correction on the last board minutes from February 22nd. It stated that I said that the board needed to make the masking mandatory, which if anybody knows me, you know that did not come out of my mouth. So if somebody could correct that, that would be great. Speaking of mask mandates, I'd like to, since it's on the agenda, request that it continue to be optional. And I know that everybody's shocked that when we removed the mask, the cases did not go up. Cases actually dropped back down, or dropped down 41.6%. So we didn't have the mass hysteria that we thought we were going to have, or that some people thought they were going to have. So my question is, now that the masks are gone and the cases are dropping, the contact tracing is going to end on March 3rd, I think. What are we going to do with all the COVID nurses and the COVID coordinators and the contact tracers and the testers and all of those people that were hired to take care of all of this? So I have a question about that. I know y'all can't answer tonight, but I think it's something that needs to be addressed, and we need to know what's going on with that. I'm also interested in an agreement that was made with the Forsyth County Public Health Department for a temporary funding to hire a public health nurse. And that was $115,000 that we paid for this nurse. And actually each county got one, and it ended up being like $11.5 million for the state, which I don't know if people know that or not. But the student health liaison, their description, they're supposed to be a liaison for the COVID coordinators. They're supposed to work on screening, testing, and vaccine administration efforts, which was very confusing to me when I read that, because it was my understanding that when we were told that there would be no shots being done in the classroom or in the schools or any kind of coordination of that by the nurses. So I think that's, the parents probably want to know what's going on with that. So I'd like that to be addressed. And I have, I'm out of time. I would like to mention that there are a lot of teachers that are against the SEL. I know there's been a few people here talking about it. These teachers are not comfortable coming forward and talking because they'll get ostracized and reprimanded, and they don't feel comfortable. There's a lot of teachers that are not comfortable with it, and I actually have something that I don't have time to read, but I'll read it next time from a teacher.
Thank you. Next, we have Ashley Wallace.
Good evening. So last week, for the first time ever, I was able to go have lunch with my son. It was amazing. He was so excited and proud to have me there. His classmates were also so excited. They talked my ear off for the entire lunch, like literally the entire lunch. They couldn't wait to tell their parents to come eat lunch with them. It was so nice to finally be able to put all my son's classmates and friend faces. Every parent should be able to do this. It seems as if certain schools are deciding to make up their own rules and not allowing parents to come eat in their cafeterias. Even my son's school has not let parents know that they are able to join their children for lunch. Actually, the last communication that parents received from our principal was that they were still not allowed. The principal told me that she would inform parents in her weekly call that they could come, but that still has not been done. Why are we allowing schools to make up their own rules? What so-called COVID protocols are they following by not allowing parents in, excuse me, and still forcing some children to eat in their classrooms? We follow the rules that we did not agree with, and all schools need to do the same. It is way past time to give these children back some normalcy and to allow parents to get back into all of the schools. We have lost 2 years of special moments with our children, and we don't need to lose anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the superintendent's update.
Thank you. And without turning the slide, keep it on the first page. I wanted to start my update this evening with something that's not on a slide, but I think it's very important. And that is the retirement of one of our very amazing educators in the audience tonight. And I wanted to take a moment to recognize her. Mary Todd Allen is retiring as our Chief Program Officer of Exceptional Student Education. And she has 37 years as an educator, 17 of which she has served in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County schools. Mary is a champion for children, or especially our EC children, and we are just, we are thrilled that she's gonna have this next phase of her life because she has lots of energy left. So she's gonna keep impacting the lives of kids, but we're also sad to see you go, Mary. So would you please stand and let us recognize you this evening? Her staff gave her a little going away party today, and she's going to have lots of stuff to keep her busy for quite a while. Lots of books to read and things to do, and so it's awesome. So our graduation update, this is just, we are moving toward that season. It's coming. And so we have contracts in place with the Coliseum and the Fairgrounds. June 9th through 12th will be all of our graduations. And so any information that folks need online, it is on the district website that shows specific graduation schedules so people can plan ahead. Next slide. So this women, I know we've been celebrating Women's History Month, and this was a great event. I wanted to recognize Alicia Bailey. She's standing in the front, one of our principals who created this event. It was a ribbon cutting for a Women in the City parade that's going to take place next year. But I was absolutely motivated and inspired for all the speakers that presented that afternoon. It was, I think, 2 Saturdays ago. Again, amazing crowd, and it just wanted to say thank you to Alicia in organizing this and recognizing the many talented women in our community. Also, yesterday, if you did not know, it was World Down Syndrome Day. And I see some folks in your blue and yellow. I see Rhonda. I don't know if that was intentional, but blue and yellow, and Daryl and blue and yellow. But we staff yesterday wore our blue and yellow. Some of our schools also celebrated World Down Syndrome Day yesterday by rocking socks, because the theme is Rock Your Socks for Down Syndrome. But I just wanted to recognize that day because it was yesterday and it's worldwide. And I'm not sure if people know the statistics, but 1 in 700 children worldwide are born with Down syndrome. And as a mom of a daughter with Down syndrome, it was the best blessing of my life to have Megan. And I know that everyone that has children with special needs knows just what a gift children with special needs are to us. And Megan has been that. And so to all the parents and to siblings and educators that are blessed with educating our little ones and big ones with Down syndrome, just happy World Down Syndrome Day. That was yesterday. I think that was my last slide. I think so, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the discussion items, and Nicolette will be talking about our summer school update.
Good evening, Chair Kaplan, board members, and Mrs. McManus. Just want to give a high-level overview of our summer programs, and thank you for the staff that spoke today about the importance of the social-emotional development for our children. In Winston-Salem, we are more than just academics. We are really focused on the whole child. Children don't come in with just their brains. They come in with their entire bodies and hearts, and it's important for us to support them in every way possible. So yesterday, our teachers should have received some information through their data manager. We just started our staff application for teachers who say they will sign up. Very excited to hear you are second grade and will be there with us again. So teachers can now sign up to work at one of our summer school programs. Our purpose is to provide engaging experiences, hands-on experience, ignite their excitement, embed social-emotional learning, and then if you were here earlier for the curriculum committee meeting, we're including coding and robotics as well, in addition to our reading, math, and STEM science hands-on experiences. Our media centers will be open as well for our students. And then Karen Garman, who's our Director of PE and Health, has an exciting bicycle program that she's going to be incorporating into our summer program as well. So we're really excited. In the board notes, you'll see the locations of our programs this year. We thank our principals and assistant principals who are allowing us to use their campuses to engage our students. So we will be at Conoke, North Hills, Union Cross, Griffith, Forest Park, Morgan, Spies, Moore, Ibraham, Old Town, East Forsyth Middle, Northwest Middle, Paisley Middle, Glenn High School, R.J. Reynolds, and the Career Center as our location this summer. We are also excited that we will be having some wraparound services for families who need before school and after school care. Many of our sites will have that offered as well. And then for our teachers who are signing up, there'll be signing bonuses for teachers who are signing up before April 8th, $1,000 signing bonus. And that actually goes to more than just teachers, so it's anyone who's working in one of our Summer Rise programs. So excited to offer that signing bonus for teachers, support staff, bus drivers, instructional assistants, child nutrition, custodial staff, therapists, speech therapists, and pathologists, site supervisors, clinical, teacher assistants that are working in our summer program. So excited to have that as part of our sign-in bonus. And then additionally, the state just came out with another bonus. So teachers who teach grades 1, 2, and 3 will get an additional $1,500 bonus teaching in our reading programs at Rise, as well as third grade teachers. For every student who meets proficiency by the end of the summer, there'll be an additional $150 per student that meets that for each teacher. So really excited about the bonuses. So teachers, please talk to your data manager. Hopefully you've received information about signing up. We're really excited to extend our learning this summer. And then families, you will get applications. You'll have access to applications next week. So you'll get a communication tomorrow from Brent Campbell's office, and marketing communication will send out communication. And then next week, our students can sign up for the amazing opportunities. So in addition to our RISE program, we have accelerated program for our gifted students. We are having an AVID camp. We're having a career exploration for our CTE and pathways for our high school students, bridge programs, freedom schools, 21st century. So we have so many different opportunities. So starting Monday, applications will be available. There'll be one application for you to fill out instead of multiple applications for each different program. And so please stay tuned and look for information for families and for teachers. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grant.
Do we
Any
have a-
questions?
Yes. Ms. Grant, thank you so much. I wanted to ask, how were the elementary and middle school sites chosen?
So first, a couple of different ways. So first, we looked to see what were the construction projects happening over the summer. So that took out numerous sites based on what projects they had. Then we asked for volunteers, and we asked principals if they would be willing to host us if they weren't having construction at their sites, if they would be willing to host. And then if we needed an extra space, we did a little bit of cajoling. But we also looked to make sure it was scattered around the county so that we had several options in different locations.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question I had is relative to the rate of the competitive rate of pay. Is that competitive in terms of what we pay teachers?
We're actually paying more this
Okay.
summer than we typically would pay teachers. So in addition to all the bonuses, the actual rate of pay is also higher than we would typically pay as well.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions? Oh, Ms. Crowley.
Do we have a goal for participation? I know last year we did a really good job of getting kids enrolled. Do we have a goal?
I'll have to check with Cheryl. I know that we are looking to invite all of our third grade students who haven't yet met the Read to Achieve benchmark. So that's our first target, is getting those third graders. And then in addition to that, we've looked at our middle of the year data to see how many students might need it. But then in addition to academic, we have all these enrichment camps as well. So some of them are not just academic. But we want as many children that would like to take advantage. So our goal is any student, any family that would like to take advantage of our wonderful opportunities to please join us.
I did, as Board Member Bohannon, he kind of answered the question about how they were selected. If I'm attending, will I be assigned to the closest?
Yes.
So like elementary school?
So in the applications, when the families complete that, the application has the parent address, and they'll be assigned to the closest school that has the program, to either closest to the family where they live, or where the parent works if they want to drop off a child on the way to work. So they'll work on that.
And I would just, I think especially looking at some of those schools in the elementary, that many of them are on one side of 52 and not equally distributed to the other side of 52. And I don't think that's usually, I think we're trying to focus in the future, on equitable outcomes for all students. Again, you see a very high concentration on one side of 52 and not on the other, especially when we're talking about, family engagement and being able to get to the school and participate, or if they need to have something. So I just hope if we move forward, if we were more intentional on making sure that they are distributed throughout the entire Winston-Salem, Forsyth County School District.
And we did want that, but we were limited based on where the projects were and where the availability of staffing. But yes, we definitely agree, definitely.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Grant. Next, our dropout data update presented by Frederica Stokes.
Good evening, Chair Kaplan, board members, and Superintendent McManus. I am pleased to share information with you tonight regarding our annual dropout prevention recovery efforts. Each year, the Department of Public Instruction shares our dropout rates for the previous year in the month of, at the very end of February or the very beginning of March. So this information has now been released by the Department of Public Instruction. They have reviewed and verified our numbers. So just to make sure we're all defining who is a dropout, it's an individual who was enrolled in our schools last year. However, they did not return by the 20th day of school this year. So they may have dropped out or left, and then we had 20 days from the very beginning of the school year to locate the students. And so if we could locate them by day 20, they were not counted as a dropout. Anything after day 20, if they came back on day 21 or day 22, it was too late. They're back and they're with us, but they were still counted as a dropout. Students can drop out and come back and then they could drop out and come back again, so the numbers can be duplicates from year to year if they drop out and come back, and then if they drop out again. So any student that graduated, they wouldn't be a part of this. Any student that transitioned to another school in another district, or homeschool or private school, they would not be part of the definition of a dropout. So just wanted to make sure, because it looks a little funny because we're talking about last year's numbers, but the state just released that data. So as we look at where WSFCS counts and rates are, the state looks at the dropout rate from grades 7 through 12, and then they also look at the dropout rate for our high school students, grades 9 through 12. For grades 7 through 12, you'll see that there was a decrease. There were 581 students, 2019-20, and then we're down 482 for the 2020-2021 school year. So that was almost a reduction of about 100 students. And then from there, grades 9 through 12, we were at 524 with a 3.06 rate, and we decreased to 2.66. I would say one dropout is one too many. However, we're headed in the right direction with the deduction in the number of students, a reduction in the number of students who have dropped out of school. When we think about what occurred, what happened this year, I would like to recognize our graduation coaches, our CARES team. They were really out during the summer in July and August. They were knocking on doors. They were inviting families back into our schools, our social workers, our counselors, our graduation coaches. They were working extremely hard the first 20 days of school. Any student that did not show up, they went out to the home. They dropped, a lot of kids had left due to COVID. They called phone numbers, they went out, they came back, they called, and they went out some more. And our CARES team and our social workers and counselors and graduation coaches really focused in on the students to get them back in school. We don't stop after day 20 because we know it's important for students to come back. So we continue to look for them even after day 20. But day 20 is the state's cutoff. So as we look at how do we compare as a district, and we're looking at the top 6 LEAs, the largest 6. As you can see, as of 2019-20, we were at 3.06, and we had the highest dropout rates amongst all of the large districts. However, this year we had the decrease to 2.66, so now we are not the highest. Durham is the highest, however, we are second. We want to work extremely hard to make sure that all of our students are engaged in school and that they are not dropping out, that they are in and they're graduating. As we look at the demographics, we've talked about this a little bit tonight. Our demographics, it has been consistent over the last 5 years that our Hispanic students have dropped out of school. That is something that we're looking at. We're looking at it by school, and we will work and partner with our EL department, and our graduation coaches will work with the different individuals within the schools to make sure that we are really looking at our Hispanic students. We're really trying to find additional resources if they are needed to support our Hispanic families, our Black families, and if you look, third are our white families also. That number is pretty high also. So when you look at our Hispanic families, we did decrease. We went from 239 students last year to 172. We held with our white families at 111, and then our Black families we decreased. And so there was a deduction. We know that there's still a lot of work ahead of us, but I think that all of us are committed to this work. When we look at the counts by high school, we really focused in on what are our numbers. Would like to highlight a few of our schools, like North Forsyth, that saw a deduction from 56 kids the previous year to 27. Want to look at our schools like West Forsyth from 26 to 19. And so as we work, we will continue to work with the principals. We will continue to work with our graduation coaches. We're not just working the first 20 days, we're still working now. Our lead graduation coaches has hosted meetings. They're monitoring the graduation rate, and they're monitoring who may drop out of school and providing additional resources. As we look at strategies, there are a lot of strategies, but just want to highlight three strategies. When we look at why are our students dropping out, the top reasons that they're dropping out, one is for absenteeism. They've missed so many days that either they can't catch up. And so chronic absenteeism is a problem that we have to tackle as a district. And so we're looking at a few things as it relates to implementing a tiered model to support students to look at chronic absenteeism. It's not just about unexcused absences, but it's about excused and unexcused, because all of it is time outside of class. As we look at our school teams, our MTSS teams, our dropout teams at the school, really focusing in at the high school level, with each school having the graduation coaches who's leading the work at the high school level to make sure that we are actively looking for students. We're actively looking for students that may have attendance rates that are ticking up so that they can intervene in advance. As we look at support plans for every student that drop out and return, because a lot of them did come back, we have to make sure that we have a reentry plan, a support plan for those students when they come back. We can't bring them back to the same old place. We have to bring them back to something different. Something different looks like making sure that they have a mentor, someone that's going to follow up with them besides the school counselor, besides a teacher. Who else, a community member or someone that can make a connection with that student. So we're looking at the mentors. If they're behind in academics, which they typically are, we're looking at tutoring. How do we support them? How do we have weekly sessions with the graduation coach to make sure that we're monitoring and providing not only the student but the family with any type of resources that are needed? And so those are a few of our strategies. As I stated, we will start working closely with our EO department as we look at the numbers, as we look at all of our students, as we look at the reasons. Like I said, the top reasons, first reason was because of attendance. Second reason was lack of engagement. So when we think about a lack of engagement, we're thinking about what type of courses are we offering to our students. Are these courses that the students are interested in? Are they being challenged in their courses? So we have to look at the courses that they're taking and when they're taking it in high school. And what pathways do we have to offer them to go to a community college or to go to a four-year university? And so those are some of our strategies as we work across the departments to make sure that all of our students are graduating from high school and that we're providing the ones that may be at risk for dropping out some resources that could help them stay in school. Are there any questions?
Board Member Crowley.
Thanks. My question, a comment I've heard from several guidance counselors is they really appreciate the graduation coaches. Having that extra person in the school has made a huge difference and has lightened a little bit of their burden. When we talk about engagement, I hope that we will consider extracurriculars because that could serve double as a mentor and definitely makes kids accountable for being present at school.
Yep, and we know the research says that if they're involved in at least one after-school activity, or it could be a club, any type of organization, then they're more than likely to stay in school and to graduate.
Board Member Bohannon.
Thank you. Just a few questions. I think, well, first, I want to make sure the determination is made at the beginning of the school year, right? That whether or not a student is a dropout within the first 20 days. I just wanted to make sure that was the...
So if you were enrolled last school year at
Right.
any time, so if you came at the beginning of the year or if you came in the middle of the year, any time that you were enrolled last school year, the expectation is if you did not graduate, for you to be in school this upcoming year, which is this year, for within the first 20 days. So you could have transferred to another district, you could have went to homeschool. As long as we have that documented where you are at, then you are fine. But when we don't know where you're at and we can't locate you, maybe you've moved, you could have moved out of the country. If we cannot locate you and determine that you are in a school somewhere in the United States or even out of the country, then you become a dropout. So we have 20 days to locate you at the very beginning of each year.
Okay, and so I asked that question because I think, sort of thinking about the context around these school years that we have the data to draw from, 1920 was the beginning of COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a normal, typical school year. The following school year, we were not in school, so there was a lot of flexibility. I think that coupled with the efforts of the CARES teams, which were relatively new and rolling out, and the efforts that they put in, I think that's, to me, it makes sense that where we've seen these kind of decreases, I think that, you know, something I'm concerned about is, and I think about the sort of three basic, the sort of three kind of reasons why, you know, students are dropping out is, and this is to the point of someone who was speaking during public comments, really honing in on some of the kind of maybe cultural barriers, particularly with our Hispanic students. I know that just utilizing Parkland as an example, because I know these numbers, like out of 1,350 students, like 53% of that school is Hispanic. And sort of to that end, then when you look at the numbers, I think we have this 2020 and 2021, that was 67, I think was the number, and that was a decrease from last year. What is going on in that school where, you know, by comparison, those numbers are lower given the high Hispanic population at that school? Sort of what are the specific reasons? Because I think a lot of times we think about the classes students are taking, or some of the more sort of academic kind of, we're not engaging with those kids, as opposed to sometimes it's, I identify more, it is more important to me to work than to be in school and be, you know, I think that is a legitimate sort of, you know, reason, and we have to sort of support students there. And then the last thing I'll say is, I think that as we're sort of talking about, I wanted to ask, are administrators still, because when I was in school, if a student missed a certain amount of days, they could be dropped by an administrator. Does that still happen?
We're working on that. It's more strategic. It's more of a plan. It's more of, if they've missed, we need to locate and find out where they are. We don't need to just drop them. And so we're talking about, we've worked on an exit interview process to start, so that it's not just you missed 10 days, you're gone. 10 days this year could have been COVID.
Right.
It could have been anything. And so definitely this year, we have not did, if you've missed 10 days, then you're dropped, because it could have been for any reason. You could have missed 22 days if you were a household contact with COVID. So we definitely did not work on that. It is still there. It's not a automatic, you drop them if they miss 10 days. A lot of districts or some people interpret it that way, but I do not. I interpret it as, if they miss 10 days, we need to locate them. We need to find out where they are. We need to find out what the reasons are before we even drop them. And so we have looked at exit interviews, making sure that parents know that they're getting ready to be dropped prior to dropping. And so that's a process that we've worked on. Ms. Mays is shaking her head. She's the lead graduation coach. So she's worked on that chart, and, you know, we're working on actually rolling that out, but it has not been that drop. Although, like you said, last year, it was a COVID year. If you look across the state, numbers went up. A lot of people were dropping kids during COVID. A lot of kids could not be found. But I will say, like you said, to our CARES team, they were knocking on the doors. They were trying to find them. Everyone had their list, from the league graduation coaches to the counselors and social workers. They had their list and their charge, and they went to look for students.
So it is something that we are actively working on.
We are.
Okay.
Absolutely. And senior team met, and we reviewed this data on Monday. And so that's the first step. And as we look at rolling it out, and as we look at meeting with school teams, this is the data that we have to show, even broken down by the demographics for each school, because each school has their specific demographics laid out.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that the public knows what the back on ramp is, because it's important that just because children go on the off ramp, that they know that there's a ramp back on.
It
And
is.
I really want to make sure that we're talking about that, that just because you left doesn't mean you're not welcome back, and that we have to make sure people know about that and that we talk about it, and that just because you dropped out doesn't mean it's a permanent decision. And I
Correct.
just want to make sure we talk about that a lot, because people make decisions and then they get to make new decisions, so.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a part of looking at our list. If they dropped out this year in November or December, that's a part of us looking at that list and trying to bring them back, having that conversation. Where are you at? What are you doing? You can come back. And so that's a big part of our message. I mean, you can come back.
And do we also share the data of, say, somebody who drops out but then goes to adult high school at Forsyth Tech or takes a GED program and graduates perhaps a little later in another avenue? Because I think it's really important, again, for people to be aware of that just because you left high school once does not mean you don't finish high school.
Yep. So the GED data is a little bit different. That would be housed within Forsyth Tech Community College. And so we do code and look at how many students left our school and dropped out and said they were at the community college. So we do keep note of that. They said they were going to get a GED. Now, if they enroll at Forsyth Tech in their adult high school diploma program, they don't count as a dropout. And so the encouragement would be to go for the adult high school diploma versus getting a GED if you're old enough. But believe it or not, I mean, those programs are extremely hard. And so we want all of our kids to stay here and complete our programs and graduate with pathways that will lead them for a career.
Board Member Louder Calvert Hayes.
I just wonder, do we send people to their homes to check and see, you know, where they may be? I mean, do we have like people that drive in and talk to the parents and things like that? And then also, my office is on Northwest Boulevard, and I see a lot of kids from Reynolds, and a lot of those kids are on Canal Street. And they'll start out, and I think maybe, and I don't know this for sure, but I think maybe they go in and sign their name or whatever they need to do. And then the next minute, I look out the window, because I'm always looking out, checking to see what they're doing. And here they come back down the street like an hour later, and they hit over by Canal Street. So I just wondered, how do you do this when they go for a short period of time and then they're back again? And this happens, and when I say kids, I mean sometimes 25, 30 kids go passing by my office, you know, heading over to Canal Street. So I just wonder, how do we keep a count on those that go in and then 30 minutes later, here they come down again? You know,
That's called
and I
skipping.
guess it's
That's called skipping.
Yeah, skipping school. But I've noticed that it's really become a regular basis. I mean, you know, I go out there and ask them why they're not in school, and they look at me like, old lady, you know, you get back in your office. And I get back in my office. But I just wondered how we keep a record. I know it's not necessarily dropping out, but I do know it's a lot of skipping.
Well, absolutely, we do send people to the homes. Our social workers, they are troopers. They are out in the homes, knocking on doors. They are calling, looking through cumulative records, calling emergency contacts. They're looking up bills to see where they at so that they can try to locate them. So they do exhaust. And like Ms. McManus said, it is skipping. It is skipping, but they are taking attendance each block.
And we have principals and teachers that go knock on doors too, and
do.
coaches. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a big team.
Board Member Woodbury.
Thank you. And I would just confess guilty. 30 years ago, that would have been me. Don't go check my Carver High School record. So give the high school kids a little grace. It take us a minute to, you know. But I do want to ask Dr. Stokes about any interest in maybe a night school or a twilight school to kind of accommodate some of the students who do authentically work and because they're supporting their families or they just have started families of their own, you know, at the high school level. I know that a lot of urban school districts now, you know, offer that as an alternative.
That's a strategy that we haven't discussed in detail. That would be something that we would need to look at as a team to see if that's possible. Right now, we do offer virtual classes in the evenings, but that's not ideal when you're behind and you really need a face-to-face teacher. And so that is a strategy that we would need to look at.
There is a great resource in Winston-Salem called the Winston-Salem Street School that offers a lot of help for children that have dropped out,
Yep.
and then they can come back
Yep.
and they can graduate. And I'm hoping that we can have some kind of connection with them if we don't already.
We do.
Good.
My
That's
team
great.
has met with them, and
Great.
we actually made some referrals for some of our students that were having trouble in the virtual academy. We
they
have
do a
made
great
some
job.
referrals. Yep, we
Yeah, they're
connected
awesome.
and met with them. Yep,
Good. Okay.
absolutely.
Board Member Parker?
Two questions. One, do we still offer the late day credit recovery at the Career Center for classes like we used to make up if, let's say they failed Algebra 1? And so after our regular school day, they could, I know we have done this in the past a few years ago. I was just curious if it's still available to our students.
So I'm unsure about at the Career Center, but I do know that we offer FACE, which is an after-school program where they were taking their classes, but it was virtually.
Okay, but we don't, to your knowledge, we don't have a face-to-face.
No.
And my second question is, I know with the community colleges, or at least in the past, there's been some differences in how old a child can be before they get their GED. I know Davie County, Davidson Community College, and they used to be take them as soon as they dropped out, and then they could do. Is that still the case, or are there differences with our county and surrounding counties?
It is. It varies, and it varies who can go into an adult high school diploma program. Some school districts require them to be 18 before they can go into an adult high school diploma program. However, some do allow them to go at 16. I believe Forsyth takes them at 16.
They do now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe they take the adult high school diploma at 16, but they have to stay with us until 16 before they can drop out of school, before they can, say they're going to drop out of school. But, I always caution, those programs are not easy, and we don't see a lot of students graduate from those programs. They don't have the support that they have in the regular school,
Right.
where we're going to be calling and knocking on your door. If you don't come, then it's different. You don't come, but here, if you don't come, we're calling and knocking on your door.
Yeah,
So-
and I guess the GED used to be the one, I know that some children could drop out from us at 16
Yep.
and go to a neighboring county and get a GED.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
so that may still be the case, you think,
Yes.
maybe? It is still the
Yes.
case? Okay.
Board Member Bohannon?
Thank you. Board Member Calvert Hayes actually brought up, I think, another question, although I know Mr. Freeman down there at Reynolds is doing a fantastic job. I know he is at every class change. He is out in the hall and all around campus. I know sometimes it's difficult to be because of just the nature of the campus. I think skipping is kind of a common thing you see. But I did want to ask, do we see a correlation between students who skip? Does that turn into absenteeism? I know that that's probably like a question you got to dig into the data to find out.
Yeah, it is, because they're missing classes.
Right.
So it is directly, correlated, and we know that we can look at patterns. A lot of times, if you look back at the elementary and middle school, they were late or they were absent there. It just didn't start at high school most of the time. I mean, it really didn't. You could look at, their middle school, and they missed a lot of days in middle school, and it carries over.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you so much. Next, Katie Key, our Director of Nursing, will present our COVID update.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent McManus. Hopefully this is short and sweet. So this is just showing our Forsyth County 14-day metrics. There we have 432 positive cases, and now the community level is low. They changed that a little bit. It's a low, medium, and high, and we are at a low now. In our Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools, during that same time period, we had 104 confirmed cases that were reported to us, and that's either students or staff. And that's a decrease of 41.6%. We talked about this last time. The toolkit had changed and said that we did not have to do close contact tracing anymore, and that we still would notify individuals, but there were several different ways we could do it. And the health department wanted us to continue to do contact tracing just a little bit longer to make sure, that the numbers were still going to fall like we were hoping they would. And so starting tomorrow, we will not be doing the contact tracing for those close contacts anymore. And we have already been doing a dashboard on our district webpage that gives weekly totals by the school, but we are now going to do a daily so that people can see how many total new cases have been reported in each school on a daily basis. So for our mask recommendation, of course, the toolkit now recommends that everyone move to voluntary masking. As I said before, our community level for Forsyth County is low. Our city mask mandate ended on March 1st, and we recommend that we continue mask optional for all schools and facilities.
Any questions?
Just
Board Member
a
Motzinger?
comment that it is state law why we have to take a monthly vote on this. This is not that the board makes that decision, but that the legislators made the decision.
Yes, we
And
have
I
to
just wanted to
continue
make
to do
sure
this.
that that's clear. Thank you.
Board Member Crowley?
Yes, so I'm not sure if you were in the room when, during the public comment, a parent had talked about their child being identified because of a cough. So I get the part about optional masking, I get the part about not doing the contact tracing. Will the control of the presence of a student in the school be back with the parents saying that their child is not sick? Unless obviously there's a fever or, they're vomiting, things that are, but not because of a cough.
So we're still required to, the contact tracing is more for those that are the positive person, and then you're finding out who they've exposed. So we won't be doing that, but we are still required to keep up with positive cases. So if a person is positive, then we have to report that, and we have to give them guidance. They have to be out 5 days from either when their symptoms started or when they tested positive. And then also we still have a list of 11 symptoms that if it's not, something that's new, like different than their baseline, then they would have to be excluded. And there's the return criteria, so they can either have a negative COVID test and be feeling better, or their symptoms are improving, or they can have a doctor's note to return, or then they would have to do the 5 days and they would be presumed positive. So that's still a requirement from our toolkit, from the state, and from our local health department.
And those symptoms that list of symptoms hasn't changed given like that we're in spring and soon to be in
Right.
pollen
And
season.
tree
pollen's like
Right.
50%.
So a lot of the symptoms are the same.
Right. We are in the allergy belt.
We did also,
Yes.
you know, we do still have some though that will present with a runny nose and they end up testing positive. So I think that's probably why we're still required to exclude them.
How, can you help me understand how that, so how does that work? So does it, a classroom teacher says, hey, this child has a runny nose, and then what's the process? Because I think I know myself, it seems like we have some schools that seem that we're not having issues navigating where we are, right? We don't receive lots of emails or calls or complaints from those schools. And then there's just a handful of schools that it seems like I don't know if they're doing something different or, so typically how would that work so that, we don't have the same, right, like if I'm school A and I'm school B and school C, that we're all kind of following, I understand we have those guidelines, but that we're kind of following it the same way, because it makes you think maybe some schools are a little bit more on the runny nose than the other schools,
And I think sometimes it's just teachers knowing students and saying, hey, this kid's not normally like this. This kid's not normally coughing, then they would send them to the office. And typically, our COVID coordinators are the ones that kind of see the students and determine whether, it's one of those symptoms and whether they need to be referred for testing or not. And our COVID coordinators get training, to tell them what needs to happen when this kid has this symptom and how they can return back to school.
And what I'm understanding you saying is this is still part of the Strong Schools toolkit.
Yes.
That we want to follow. Because I think it's just guidance. I don't think we have to do it, right? No. Okay, so we're still kind of following that. And then one other question, and I think we can probably get into this at a different time and depth, but though we're not doing the contact tracing to the same degree, we still, so tonight it kind of said someone brought up, I think, that we brought people on staff, but those folks are still being used in the schools. It's just, their roles changed or it's a little different.
So COVID coordinators are still having to keep, they're not having to do that extensive finding out who this person was exposed to and how many and calling the parents and giving all that information, but they do still have to keep up with confirmed cases and symptomatic cases.
And
yeah, it has to be reported to the health department. Yeah.
And so if just to be clear, bless you, to see pollen.
Look, me too.
You're all right. I lost my train of thought, Leah, completely.
Okay.
So what was I going to say?
COVID coordinators.
No, I don't know.
COVID coordinators also have a full-time job, don't forget that.
Yes.
They do this on the side of it.
Right. The other thing I was going to ask, and I don't think it was on the slide, but if I test positive for COVID and I'm out for my 5 days, are we still requiring that when they return, they have to wear a mask for 10? Because that wasn't.
For 5 additional days.
The 5 additional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's still in the
it's still in the cool. Okay. I didn't see it on the slide, and I didn't know if that had changed or not.
Board Member Bohannon?
Thank you. This may be more of a question for Tricia or Dr. Pratt. So someone mentioned earlier concerns around differentiation, and this is actually almost to Board Member Cotto Jones's point. Someone mentioned earlier about some differentiation between sort of at some schools, parents are, the rollout of parents being able to come and meet with their kids at lunch is a little different. The question is, are principals aware, is their interpretation supposed to be kind of standardized at this point in terms of what they're doing, or is it still depending
So
on
the
the school?
standardization, so principals are aware that parents can come eat with their children. I mean, yes, they're aware of that. There's never been a standard protocol in our system for what that looks like, ever. I mean, so basically, if you're coming into the cafeteria, some might come in the cafeteria. Some classes might go outside and eat at picnic tables, and the parents can join there. Some might be going to their classroom. I mean, when I was a teacher, my kids wanted to go back to the classroom every day because they didn't want to be in the cafeteria. But again, we don't mandate that. We're not going to set a site-by-site, we're not going to set a district protocol for how schools, like what time kids go to lunch. There is a standard of how much time they should have for lunch, a minimum amount of time. But again, the way it's done, the way that you bring in volunteers, the way that you have parents come in and meet with your children, the standard is parents are allowed to come into campus. We encourage it. It's a great thing. Come into campus and eat with your children. The way that looks school to school, we've never mandated, and that's what we're not going to start doing.
Right. So I just want to be clear. So that I know needs to not be standardized. I think the question, because ultimately some of the feedback we've gotten is essentially that although we as a board we are optional with masking, I think that some of the concern is that at some of the schools, there's still a little bit of trepidation about the total rollout of we're sort of open at this point. I think that's really what people are getting to. And I think what I want to just make sure we're doing is that we've said every school is kind of opened up.
There are a few stragglers, and
Okay.
we've talked to those few, and so
Okay.
everyone's should be open at this point. Again, what it looks like could vary, but everyone should be open and welcome.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Oh, Board Member Calvin Hayes?
I just want to verify this. I got a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot. It's one of my little thing didn't blow up, about kids and parents not being able to eat in the schools. And I mean, it was just unbelievable, and I don't know how that got out or what happened with something like that. So I just want to make sure that all our parents are completely known the right way about coming in the schools and what they need to do, so at night I can sleep.
Yeah, I will just also say, I encourage parents, build relationships with the principal, get to know the teams, get to, your teachers, come in with other solutions and ideas, start lunch buddy programs, whatever that looks like. But again, that relationship with your school principal, your school assistant principals, your school team, I think we can get to a place where everyone's, happy about coming in and being able to have those lunch opportunities with their children. And so, yeah, again, there were some stragglers, but we're all on the same page at this point. Again, I think we just need to work with our school administrative teams as parents and work together to figure out what that looks like in each school.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. We are now at the part of our meeting for our action items.
Yes. Can I, Board Member Kaplan?
Yes.
Chair Kaplan, can we make one correction on, she'll do it right there, before you go into the action items? I'm sorry, because we made
Of
one
course.
statement that needs to be corrected earlier.
Okay.
Thank you, and
Sure.
I think, can you hear me? Thank you, Andrea, for catching me. So for those teachers that are in the audience, I do make my notes really big because I can't see without my glasses, and I'm trying to, I misspoke on the second bonus for summer school, and I want to make sure I correct it so the minutes have it accurate. The first bonus that we're giving for the signing bonus for the April 8th is $1,000, but the second bonus for teachers in grades 1, 2, 3, and 4 is $1,200, and I misspoke and said $1,500. It's $1,200, and then the $150 per student for third grade. So I just want to make sure the record has it correct.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Grant.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Our next order of business, as I said earlier, is the action items. First, consider approval of recommendation for optional masking. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Consider approval of proposed revisions to policy 6167 dual enrollment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just like for us to I think Rhonda Mays brought up some really good points about the transportation with that, and as a district, if we can make sure that we do follow up and look into that.
That's a great point. Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of proposed revisions to policy 5122, assignment of pupils to classes. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Next, consider approval of the Easton Mobile to the city of Winston-Salem.
Move to approve.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes. Quick question for Daryl. So is it staying on the Easton property?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it'll just be there, they just own it?
Correct.
Okay.
But is the location now is being moved, right, on the campus?
It's going to be moved from its current location onto campus. We're going to continue to own it.
Okay.
So we're surplusing it, we'll give it to them as a dollar. We're going to continue to own the item.
Okay, we'll own it, but they're just gonna use it?
Correct.
Okay.
They're going to pay utilities and all the outfits.
What about maintenance?
They'll do maintenance and everything. We'll just mow the grass around it, basically.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, all in favor? That is unanimous. Next, consider approval of proposed NCDOT for Forsyth Board of Education acquisition on Sedge Garden ES.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Next, consider approval of the 2023 maintenance capital projects funded by the 2016 bond. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of the activity bus purchase for replacement. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second? All in, any discussion?
Just how much my fellow board member loves activity buses. This vote is in honor of you.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next, consider approval of waste management recycling contract. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Our next order of business is the consent agenda. We have 4 items on the consent agenda. The first, consider approval of the budget amendments. Number 2, consider approval of the general personnel report. Number 3, consider approval of the February 8th, 2022 Board of Education meeting minutes. And next, consider approval of the February 22nd, 2022 Board of Education meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve all 5 items?
I do with the correction in the
With the
minutes
correction
as
of the minutes.
requested.
Second.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
thank
All
you.
right, discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Next is our announcements. Tuesday, April 5th, 2022, will be our next regular meeting of the Board of Education. Before we begin the section of our meeting in which anyone can comment on anything, let me say to our Cable 2 viewers, thank you for watching. This will conclude our broadcast.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.